Hey guys, I'm going to try something a little different today. Instead of writing an article and writing all this down and then typing it in and doing all that stuff, I'm going to try to do a video because I was out late last night and I'm a little tired. So when I start looking at the DFS slate, so I'm going to focus more on the early slate, I pull up Fantasy Cruncher because that's the main optimizer that I use, and you can see I've made these little marks across here. And what I'll do is I'll sort by salary high to low, and then I'll start running down and looking, seeing how the players have done. So Corbin 11-5, he has a 30 and a 39 point game after a dud last week, so he's decent if you want to spend up. Carrasco, not going to use him. And then we're going to go down here to Morton. He hadn't done anything great in his last three, but the price drop to 9,800 isn't too bad. And so he's okay if you want to use. I gave him a little green thumb. Darvish, I'm not touching right now, even though Cincinnati's been a hot mess. Now, it is notable he did just face Cincinnati and went 5.1 innings with only 2 earned runs and 11 strikeouts for 27 points. So if you want to use him in a GPP, that would work. Here's another guy I like. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. I'm going to say Tyler Mahaly. I like him. You know, he's put up 23, 18, 25, and almost 21 DK points in his last four. And he's faced the Dodgers, Giants, at Oakland, and at the Mets. And he's only given up 0, 4, 1, 1 with 5, 8, 8, 7 Ks. So that's not too bad at 8,700. I'm going to give him a green thumb. He'll be in my player pool. Tough matchup, though, at the Cubs. Gibson, we're going to look at him. No, I don't want anything to do with him at 8,500. He has a couple good starts, but his last three, well, I guess he's faced, okay, so this is a double pull. So Seattle, LA, and then Toronto. He had a good game there, 6 innings, 11 Ks, only 1 earned run. So I guess if you wanted to use him, you could. He should get the win. This other guy over here is a hot mess. All right, so let's change this over to a green thumb. And then Kikuchi, I like him. 8,300, so we're looking at the low 8Ks, and he's put up 22, 13, 22, and 31 DK points. So he's pushing almost 3x, shy of 2x, almost 3x, and then pushing 4x. So that's not too bad. And then he also has big strikeout numbers. So at Cleveland, he put up 10 Ks, so he does have the upside. Now we're going to go down fires. No, I'm not. I'm going to let someone else ride this. Now, everybody remembers the no-hitter against Cincinnati. 9 innings, only 6 Ks, and he put up 45 points. But look at all of his other starts. 9, 13, 7, 18, -1, -10, 6. No, I don't want anything to do with him. Clark, no. I just clicked him. Hap, let's see what he's done. So he hadn't really done anything minus the one good game against Seattle, and he's coming off of a -4 point start against Baltimore, who's terrible, so I'm going to pass on him. Arrieta, I don't mind. He's only 7,500, so if you need to get down from like Coochie at 83, you want to save $800, you want to go to Arrieta, that's fine. He's been very lucky so far. His BABIP numbers and xFIP ERA, there's a pretty good difference between them, and you can see he went on a start of 4 earned runs, had 5 here. So I don't love him, but if you want to use him against Milwaukee, you could. I gave him a thumb. Suarez is an interesting one, and we're going to look at this once I go down the matchup sheet. He is coming off, so he's coming back from an injury, I believe. And so he faced Atlanta. He went 6 innings, 3 runs, 5 Ks for 12 points. He's only 7,300, so that's pushing 2x. So not terrible, but we'll look at that one again. We'll just come back to that. Now here's your GPP play, this Sandy Alcantara, whatever the hell his name is. And so look at his 8-0-9-0. I mean, he had a run of just crap after a monster first start against Colorado. And then he comes out this last start, drops 43.45 DK points against the Mets through a complete game, 2-hitter with 8 strikeouts and no earned runs. I have no idea where that came from, but at 6,900, it's worth rolling the dice, seeing if he can put it together again. So that's going to be my GPP play. Let me get a pen and write that down. Alcantara GPP. Alright, now don't go crazy if he gets shelled, because I'm also going to do a line where I stack against him just to cover myself. And then these other guys down here, I'm not going to click on each one, but this is typically what I will do. So if you're on Fantasy Cruncher, I'll come up here, I'll do the drop down, I'll choose the slate, and so I'm only looking at these pitchers. I'll go through, pick the ones that I want, and this is one guy that I want to stack against, Manny B. So he's given up, let's see, alright, he has 3 starts in May, 2 at the end of April, and he's given up 5, 9, and 2 earned runs. So, and Cleveland was a hot mess, so they even tagged him for 5 runs in 4 innings twice. So he's someone I'm going to go against. So once I get done with this, I'm going to come down here to the daily stack sheet. Now, on our cheat sheets, you know, we've got the hitter sheets that's got all this information on it. We got the pitchers sheet that's got all the swinging strike rates and data and how teams are doing versus pitcher hand. We got projections for DraftKings, FanDuel, and this section here is opponent versus pitcher hand. The bottom 5, or the best 5 matchups, are highlighted in green. And so we've got what their total number is, what it is versus the current pitcher hand they are facing, and then I just put a split. So if you just want to sort and see who has the biggest difference, you can. And then here we've got the pitcher home road splits. Some of them don't have enough data yet, but you can also do the same thing. You see like what their total ERA is, and then what their ERA is either home or away, wherever they're playing at now. And then you can see the split, so if you just want to sort by difference. And same with XFIP, K9, WOBA, WHIP, batting average. And then if you want to get even further, you can come down here to the advanced breakdown, and you can see how each pitcher does versus lefties versus righties, ERA, XFIP, K9, WHIP, batting average, and WOBA. So if you want to look at numbers, there's a lot of numbers in here to look at. Honestly, most of the time, I don't have time to go through all of these. May, June, July is really busy for me at my real job. But I will come over here at the pitchers. I'll sort by GPP algo, and then I'll look at the swinging strike rates, and I'll look at the fantasy points per game, and then I'll also look at this column and see the strikeout rates. So right here we can see this team striking out 23.9% of the time, but it's 27.5% of the time versus the pitcher hand. So we come over here, that's Kyle Freeland. Okay, so that's not on the main slate. And then I'll look over here and say, okay, he's got an ERA of 6. His ERA at home is a run lower at 5.04, and then his XFIP is a tiny bit lower at 4.89. He has 11.1 swinging strike rate. So at this price, 55, yeah, he's probably worth using. And then down here, I automatically see this 29.1. I'm gonna look at Skaggs. He's kind of a hot mess right now. You can see his XFIP ERA split is between 5 and 6.5, so I probably don't want anything to do with that. So most of these are main slate. Main slate, I haven't looked at any of the pitchers yet. I'm trying to focus on the early slate. But then I'll come over here to the batters. I'm going to sort by GPP algo first, and then I'm going to see who comes up top. Now, one thing that jumps out to me here is I see Washington, Washington, Washington. I see 5 of those guys. So a Washington stack is going to be one of the lineups I'm going to put in. I haven't looked to see if it's the main slate or whatnot, but it's against Sandy Alcantara, who's got a split XFIP of 7.23. So we looked at him when we were going over our pitchers, and so he's been a hot mess. So if you want to stack against him, that's fine. I'm going to stack against him, but then I'm also going to put him in a couple of lineups, because I do multi-lineups. I usually run 20 to 25 a day. I will put him in a couple just in case he has that breakout 40-point game, and I want to have him in there. And you even got a couple Detroit guys that made it up here in the tops. And then also, once I sort by GPP algo, I will come over here to DraftKings where I play and look at salaries and see who I can get. Alright, so Miggy's $3,500, Dozier's $36, Castellanos is $39, so those are some cheaper guys I can use. Of course, these top guys are going to be over 5. Then we've got Eaton and Robles, 41, 45, and go down, and I'll kind of look at that, and I'll even come over here to my, so this is the pitcher's total ERA, and then this is the ERA split. So if they're home, it's their ERA at home. If they're away, it's their ERA on the road. and then this is the split of where they're at, the xFIP number. So I'm going to come here, and I like to sort this high to low. So if you have people like, so Alcantara is going to be the highest one. So this shows that his split xFIP, where he's pitching, is 7.23, but his ERA is 4.25 overall, 4.6 we'll say where he's at, but xFIP 7.23. So he is a lot worse than what his ERA indicates. So that could be a sneaky stack here going with Washington. So the same thing with Detroit. Vargas, he's a 5.92, and then I need to put a little column here to see if they're home or away. So wherever he is, his ERA split is worse. It's 6.75, and his xFIP is 6. So bad pitcher. So if you want to stack Detroit, they've got to be pretty cheap. And then you can go through and just kind of highlight those, and then you can see their salary real quick, and then you can go over here to their fantasy points per game, and etc., etc. You get the point. And then over here, this is something new I added a couple weeks ago. So this is their fantasy points per game, the last 7, fantasy points per game, last 14. And then this is the last 14 value versus their salary today. And then this is their ceiling game in the last 14. So if you've got someone that's got a ceiling game of 6, you probably don't want to use that guy because he's likely not going to break out. Okay, so back over to the daily stack sheet. So this is the main sheet that I look at and I spend the most time on. We did revamp it a little bit. Let me see if I can blow it up so it's bigger on the screen. Okay, perfect. Alright, so when I run these lines early in the morning, if the line's off, you'll see off here, so it's not pulling it in yet. I'll try to get those updated, but lots of times I'm out the door by 8 a.m. and those aren't posted yet. And if you've never seen this before, I'll post screenshots of this in my article. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown. So the first thing to look at down here is the stack score. So this takes how a pitcher does, their xFIP versus lefties versus righties, and then how a team has been producing runs per game, and it comes up with a score. I recommend stacking any teams that are over 150. If you get 170, 180, those teams usually go off. And then one of the things I always did is I ran a bullpen report, which I kept back here on my desktop, you can see. And I kept going back and opening it up. And then I also had a home away report that I would run, and I kept going back to my desktop. So what I did is I brought in the home away report up here up top. So you can see the team, and it'll say home or away, which the team's on the left here. The way it imports, it's always going to be home. And so this is where they're at right now, all their numbers. Their WRC plus, WOBA, strikeout rate, and then I call it OB ISO, but it's OBP plus ISO. So you have their numbers, and then this is how it ranks among all 30 teams in the MLB. And then these are their away numbers, so you can get a quick comparison. And then, of course, you got to bring in the difference column and see if they're better or worse. So here I would look at this and say Minnesota has a WRC plus of 114. So for home teams, that's 5th in the entire MLB. But on the road, they've got a 135.42, so they're 21 points higher on the road. Now, if you're not familiar with WRC plus, it's kind of an overall number. 100 is average, so if you're above 100, that means you are above average. So that's those numbers, and you can also see strikeout rates. That'll help if you're wanting to use the pitcher to see how a team's doing. And then over here we've got our projected starting lineup, hitter hand, their WOBA versus the current pitcher hand they're facing, and then their OBP plus ISO, so you can see if a guy's got power, no power. And then I spent a lot of time here in this last 7, last 14, and I tried to color code it instead of doing where green's high and red's low and it's just color coded. I wanted blue and a set number range to say, okay, these batters are cold over the last week. And then red, these players are hot. And then you've got some middle, this orange and green's kind of a middle ground. So you can see right here, Eddie Rosario versus the pitcher hand. He's got a 390 WOBA. He's averaging 15.5 games over the last week, 12.2 over the last 14. He has a ceiling game in his last 14 days of 29 DK points. Now he is 5,200, so he's expensive. But he's someone you can look at and say, okay, I want to build around him if you're going to do a stack. I love the Minnesota stack. That's every lineup I have right now in the early slate against this Manny B. So looking at the pitcher they're facing, he's got a 4.58 xFIP to lefties, a 5.02 to righties, so he's terrible to both sides of the plate. Now he does support a strong K9 rate of 9.0 and 9.9, but his whip is awful, 1.7 and 1.95. Typically, you want someone about 1.25 or lower, so that's really high. And if you're not familiar with whip, that's walks and hits versus walks and hits and innings pitched. And then your WOBA, you typically want someone that's under 3 to 320. So a 388 and a 436, that's awful. So he's bad to both sides of the plate, but he can get some strikeouts. And then this little column right here, this is the first one I added. So this is how the team does. So this is Minnesota, their team up here. How they do as a team just versus the pitcher hand. So it takes in all the home, all the away, and just says, okay, pitchers that are righties or pitchers that are lefties that they're facing today. So you get their strikeout rate, their WRC plus, which you can see they're off the charts. So they're hitting 130.6, and their average, they're hitting 292 with a 369 WOBA. They've just absolutely been on fire recently. And then this is the current rank of all the teams, on the slate today. So you can see they're pretty much ranked at the top. The 30 numbers, this is for the pitcher. So the pitcher, not ranked good, but if you're looking at the team, then that is good. And the biggest thing that I want to know when I'm going through here and picking a team or picking a pitcher is I want to know what's the bullpen look like when they go out of the game in the 5th or the 6th inning. So I put in the bullpen breakdown because I always went back to my bullpen sheet and it was annoying. And so I did a quick rank if you don't want to look at the numbers, and it's just a custom rank putting together, accumulating all the stats. So Minnesota is facing the White Sox. The White Sox over the last 30 days have the 25th ranked bullpen. They've got a 4.81 xFIP, a 1.45 WHIP. Their home runs and nines not bad. Their average isn't bad. Their K9 is not good for a bullpen. So if Minnesota comes in and they crush Manny B when the bullpen comes in, they're going to face the 25th ranked bullpen. I like that. That's pretty good for a stack. Their stack scores 148. That's close enough to 150 where I can build a couple lines in here. And when you look at this, so it's Minnesota and Chicago, so this is all just one game. And you can see when you scroll down, the sheet has every game that's on here. So I'm going to scroll down here and look at some games. And so for this one, we like Minnesota. Kyle Gibson, he's kind of so-so. They got a good bullpen when he comes off, so you can stack that. Prices are kind of expensive. And then, one other thing I want to show you. So right here, it's real small, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a value meter. And if all the numbers pull correctly, you can see the top 4 WOBA versus pitcher hands. So it's going to be these guys in green. And it's going to be their salary by their fantasy points per game. So you get a 147 average, but if you use the last 14, you get a 191. Anything that's 1.8 and up and over 2 is good. So this would be considered a good stack at decent value for what they've been producing. So we got the KC, the Yankees. You can see over-unders 9.5. KC at home only has a WRC plus of 80. And on the road, the last 30 days, for this sheet I pulled the last 30 just so I could get a quick glimpse of the last month. So they're a lot better on the road. At home, they rank 26th, 25th, and 26th. So not the best, and they have been struggling. Lopez got called up. He's been hitting, but not really producing any counting stats. Gordon's been cold. Solaire's been cold. And then I like to look at this. This is my favorite thing now. So I can see the hitters in this projected lineup versus this pitcher. This is all their BVP history. So you can see they've got 68 at-bats. They're batting 176 versus Hap. Now, I'm going to look at this. Now, this is accumulated basically over 3 guys. So Witt's got 22 appearances. The catcher has 22, and Billy Hamilton has 16. So that's not a huge thing, but if it's spread out somewhere between 5 and 10 for most of the hitters, I'm going to put a lot of weight on this number. And then Kansas City, Yankees, they got the 6th ranked bullpen, so decent pitcher, struggles a little bit, but they're going to have a bullpen that's pretty solid that comes in. And right now with Witt at 48, Mondesi at 5, Gordon at 49, they're a little bit too expensive for me. You're at the 1.4 to 1.6 range, so I'm definitely not going to stack them. They're a decent stack score of 138, but not the best. But if you come over here to the Yankees, they're 167, so they automatically go on my teams to stack. Now, Lopez has been decent. You can see his xFIP, it's low to mid fours on both sides of the plate. His whip to lefties is a lot higher than righties, and then his WOBA to lefties is a lot higher than righties. So he struggles a little bit with left-handed hitters. And then these ranks are not good for the pitcher, but good for the hitting team. And then Kansas City, they've climbed from a bottom 5 bullpen the last 30 days up to 15th. And you can see their numbers. So they're decent. They're good, not great. And then over here, I'm sure these guys are going to be expensive. But they've been producing. Actually, they're really not priced too bad. So we got on the value meter, a 2.14 and a 1.96. And so there's 23 at-bats, and it's spread out. So 23 at-bats, they're batting .391 against George Lopez. That's not good for George Lopez. And then let's see, here we have Luke, who's 4,800. Hicks is only 42. DJ's 44. Sanchez on fire. And Torres 55, 51. But you can mix one of those guys or even both of those guys with some of these other guys who are dirt cheap. I would probably avoid Morales. He's got a 257 WOBA versus pitcher hand, no BVP, and he's cold last 14 and last 7 days at 2.3 and 4.6 points per game. But if you want to stick him in there just to have a stack, 2,900's dirt cheap to mix with the 51, and I'll knock you down to like 2 4K guys. And then Frazier, he's been pretty solid. 356, 633. He's been hot over the last week. He's been solid over the last 14. He has the highest last 14 game ceiling, and he's only $4,200. So let me write that down. Stack Yankees and Minnesota. Okay. And so let's flip down here. This thing's getting a little too long. All right, quick look at the Cubs. I didn't have the lineup yet. They say home away, they're about the same. They're playing Cincy. Cincy's been really good at home. They're one of the biggest teams on the home away split. So they got a WRC plus of just shy of 100 at home, but on the road, 76, 285, 432. Those numbers are terrible, which you can see 26, 26, 26. And then over here, the runs per game, they're 4.1 on the season. They've had a couple good games, so they're up to 5 runs per game over the last week. So that's not too bad. So they're facing Darvish, and when we looked at the pitchers, you remember Darvish had a really good game against him a couple weeks ago. And then his numbers are slightly improving, but his whip is high, so he's been known to give up some runs. But as far as the matchup versus pitcher hand, he's got a great matchup if you're looking at this. So here I would say, I'm going to put Darvish into my GPP pool because Cincinnati versus Darvish's pitcher hand has the 12th best strikeout rate at 24.5%. They've got the third best WRC plus, or third lowest WRC plus at 75.5, and they're only 76 on the road, so that's good. And then they're batting 214 and have a WOBA of 287. And you can see these ranks over here, 12, 3rd, 5th. So the low numbers are good for the pitcher. That means a good matchup. The big numbers are good for the hitting team. And then the Cubs have a mid bullpen that's ranked 17th, so it's decent. So I'm definitely not going to stack any Cincinnati. You could just because Darvish has been shit lately, but stack score 135, that's too low for me. Darvish, I'll put him in my GPP pool just because it's a good matchup for him. Come over here to the Cubs. And Tyler Mahali, or however we say his name, stack scores 155, so that does scare me, but he has the 7th ranked bullpen coming in behind him. So if they can get any type of a lead and jump off this 5 runs per game over the last week, the bullpen could hold it. And the top of the lineup here has been just absolutely fire. These guys have been absolutely killing it, like 2.6. 1.88 and 2.6 on the value meter. I've never seen a 2.6. But you've got Chris Bryant, who's been on fire. Schwarber's been on fire. Rizzo had a monster game last night. Baez. It's now the bottom part of the lineup, you're much better getting through. And then they're going to get to face the pitcher, so your bottom 4 guys are good, but these top 5 guys could kill you. And the at-bats are spread out in the BVP. And out of 42 at-bats, they're only batting 238 versus Darvish with 8 strikeouts. So that's not, versus this dude, sorry. So that's not too bad. And then you can see versus pitcher hand, they've been good. So I like him just for his price. He's so cheap. He really doesn't need to do much. It is a very tough matchup, but the bottom of the lineup should get him through a few innings. So if you want to stack a lot of hitters and use him, I'm good with that. Let's see, what was his price? Tyler Mahle, 8,700. Okay, and then Darvish is 93. Okay, so that is a little high. I would probably go down here to Kikuchi at 83, but either way, you've got a couple of options. And then let's see, San Diego, Toronto. I can't believe this game has an over/under of 10. Both pitchers are absolutely terrible. Yeah, he doesn't have enough data to even pull a versus right-handed number, and neither does Edwin Jackson. But that's why I pulled in their 2018 stats, so you can see just terrible numbers all around. Both teams struggle, so it looks like a good pitching matchup, but the pitchers suck, and also the teams suck. San Diego's 3.8 runs per game over the season, and 3.7 over the last 7, and then you've got 3.7 and 4. I mean, not good. And then BVP, nothing here, nothing here. Value meter here's not bad. 195, that's pretty good. So I could probably get behind a Toronto stack. These guys here, you could go. Actually, yeah, these guys are super cheap. You go Vlad at 43, throw Smoke in there at 43. Rowdy, he's been on fire, and he has the second highest ceiling game in the last 14 days, and they're just $4,300. And then you could come down and take Grichuk, Galvis, or Brandon. You could take one or two of them and have a pretty good stack. Sogard's been a little bit cold at 0.8 points per game over the last week. So Toronto, let me write that down. Toronto's one of my GPP stacks. They are cheap. So this stack will allow me to get a couple good pitchers in. Now the bullpen for San Diego has the 9th ranked bullpen. So they got one of the better ones, so they've got to tag him early, and then they probably won't get more than a run or two after that. So if you're live betting the game, as soon as whoever the heck this dude is comes out, you could probably bet the under or flip the sides, because over here Edwin Jackson, who's been a hot mess, has a good matchup on paper. San Diego hasn't been good, and San Diego is super cheap too, so you could even game stack this with a run of 10. One guy that jumps out to me looking at this is Manny Machado. Only $4,200. He has a last 14 stealing game of 24 points. Decent last 2 weeks, and he's got a 609 WOBA versus pitcher hand. That is monstrous. And then Will Myers has a monster WOBA. He's been cold, but only $3,800. No real BVP, but he's 2 for 4. Mikado doesn't have any, and then Hosmer, you could even throw him in there. He's 2 for 4, even with a home run. So that would be a cheap stack you could stick in there. And I get a lot of questions about this testing. So testing's the default, so if a pitcher has this no pull, so they don't have enough data, it's going to default to testing. Or if one of the top guys is missing a salary, it's going to default to testing. So anyways, I like Mikado as a one-off hitter today. I'll probably put him in there. Let me write that down. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask, drink my coffee, do a video, and save typing 5,000 words. San Francisco, Arizona, I'm going to run through these a little bit quicker. So they are, San Francisco sucks at home, 71.3, away 105. So good on the road, they suck at home. They're facing Tyler Clark, 6.5 xFIP to lefties, no data to righties, so he sucks too. So wash there, don't care. They've been cold. Arizona, they're about the same both places. They're facing Suarez. Suarez only has one start, which was pretty good, but you can see that's not enough data. I'm not worried about that. But versus pitcher hand, Arizona actually kills. I believe Suarez is a lefty, and they crush lefties. I mean, look at these numbers. A low 21.3, WRC plus of almost 125. They have a batting average of almost 287 versus lefties. And then their home away, 91, 93, they're the same. So yeah, Arizona might be a GPP stack for me. Let me write that down. Arizona, GPP, win money. Okay, we got it. And then over here, you look at these top guys. You got Adam Jones with a 348, Marte with a 330, Eduardo Escobar at a 335. and Christian Walker kills lefties. Now this guy's been ice cold. I've dropped him in some season-long leagues to get C.J. Cron. I mean, he's not doing anything, but he's still got a 21-point game ceiling. He's only $4,000, and he's got a 368 WOBA versus pitcher, and he mashes lefties. So if he's going to break out, I'm going to stack these 4 guys right here. And you know what? I'm going to go down. If this ends up being the lineup, I'm going to do the top 5. Dyson was like $5,000 last week. I can't pay that for him. It's just because he stole a couple bases in the same game. But Nick Ahmed, he's been decent the last week. Decent ceiling, only $3,600, and he's 3 for 7, so that's not terrible. But in a limited 20 at bats, they're hitting 450 against Suarez. So they're killing lefties BVP wise. They've killed lefties this year, and then the bullpen's kind of middle of the pack. So I don't mind an Arizona stack at all. Washington, Miami, what are we looking at here? So Washington's much better at home than they are on the road, but still not great. Last 7 days they're up to 5 runs a game, so since Turner came back they're picking up. So I see a lot of green BVP here, not a lot of data. But oh, wow, out of 20 at bats they're batting 550 against Alcantara, so that's not good for him. And what are their prices like? So they are expensive. 49, 58, 51. You can throw Eaton in there at 41. I think he homered last night, and kind of leverage some of that out and mix in some of these lower guys. Dozier and Robles are fairly priced, not too bad, but yeah, look at that. 496, 434, 466, and 402 for Gomes. Those are some monster WOBA versus pitcher hands, so I will stack this, but like I said, with his monster game last time, I will have what Tommy G calls a hedgy stack, but I'm going to flip it the other way and use the pitcher. And anyways, you can kind of see how they're doing here. And then, oh, this might be a good over game here. You look, you've got the 28th ranked bullpen, or 27th ranked bullpen, and the 28th ranked bullpen going in the same game. And Miami, I don't know what the hell's wrong with them. They've been on fire lately. They're up to 5.2 runs per game over the last week, which is monstrous. I mean, they're almost pushing double what their season average is. So they've picked up dramatically. Yeah, I might bet that over. Let me write that down. Look at Washington over 8.5. Both bullpens are freaking garbage. So yeah, Corbin's the only thing that scares me there. If he can go 7 innings, that's probably going to hurt it. But the Nats bullpen is awful. They got an xFIP over 5, a WHIP of 1.6. They're giving up almost 1.7 home runs per 9 in the bullpen, and the bullpen batting average against is 285, 284 if you want to be technical. Corbin should get the win, but Miami's been on fire lately, and 8.5 is a pretty small number. Washington can probably put up 6 itself, so maybe I'll just look at Washington team total over. I like that. Pause for 1 second. Washington team total over. Alright, got it. Let's flip down here. Oakland, Seattle. I think we're getting into the late slate now. Let me check and see. Okay, nope, we're still good. I'm going to run through these real quick so I can post this. So decent stack score, 123, 133, over under 9.5, not bad. Seattle, after starting the season like 12-3 or 14-3, or I don't have the actual number, they've just fallen off of a cliff. On the road, they suck. They got a WRC plus of 80 over the last week, or I'm sorry, the last 30. And then Oakland, they've been on fire. They're up to 5.5 runs per game over the last 7 days. And, yeah, they've been pretty decent. Kikuchi, tough matchup here facing him, but he's been pretty good. And the bullpen sucks for Seattle. They're 29th over the last 30 days, so Oakland's going to get some runs either off of Kikuchi, which I like him as a pitcher today, or when he comes out of the game. Fires, oh, this guy sucks. 5.71 xFIP. I mean, he doesn't have a K9 rate over 7. That's terrible for a starting pitcher with a 1.4 whip to lefties. I mean, and it's a semi-tough matchup. If Seattle can do anything, they're down to 4.3 runs per game over the last week. I mean, they've got to do it today. But you've got Domingo. He's been pretty cold. Vogelbach's been cold last week. E5's been cold. Um, their prices came down a little bit. Vogel's still over 5. I would probably skip him. And I mean, you could stack the 1, 2, 4, 5 hitters and do decent. But even versus Fires, I mean, in 59 at bats, given you've got E5 and Haniger eating up most of them, they're only hitting 186. So not exciting if you want to do that. Cleveland, Tampa, 144, 144. Could go either way. Carrasco, Morton, good bullpens behind him, 12th and 3rd. I probably don't want to stack one of these games. I could find better value elsewhere. And then over here, Phillies at 149, so they're right around it. Chacin, good bullpen behind him. Decent numbers. Philly's been picking up. They're up to 5 runs per game over the last week. In 44 at bats though, only hitting 182. Nothing exciting. Hitting 260 against Arrieta. Now I do kind of like this. What are they price? God, Yelich is almost $6,000. That is insane. And then $5,000, 4,900. It's going to be too expensive to get anyone in there. That's going to be an expensive stack, and they're 4.2 over the last week. Yeah, if you want to try to stack it, you can. I like him going against Arrieta. I think they'll get to him and beat him up pretty good. And then the bullpen behind him isn't great. 23rd over the last 30 days. But when you're spending almost $6,000 for one player, and then the guys around him are almost $5,000, you're really not going to get anything unless you want to get real crazy and come down here and do this bottom side stack. And with Aguilar, Grandal, and I do like this guy. I can't even pronounce his name. He's only 3,800, and I mean, I think he's going to do really good. So he's a good one-off hitter you could plug in. Mets, nothing there. Kind of flipping through the numbers real quick. So this jumps out at me up here. Here's a good example. So Mets at home, WRC plus 111, away 53 over the last 30 days. So at home, they're one of the 7th best home teams, but Jesus, on the road, they're 60 points lower. So Mets at home, if you're ever going to play them, that's where I would be looking at. And so they're facing Carpenter, no data for righties, xFIP of 5 to lefties. Yeah, you could even do a Mets stack here. I mean, they've been cold. I want to wait and see what their starting lineup is. Alonso's the only expensive guy. I mean, he's got almost a 450 WOBA versus pitcher Hayne at 53. But Carlos Gomez, I didn't even know this guy was freaking playing. And we were playing cards, and I looked up, and I saw C. Gomez go across the screen, and I'm like, there's another C. Gomez? And I looked, and I was like, Carlos Gomez is still playing? Are you kidding me? But yeah, I think he signed about a week ago, and he's been doing decent. I don't have a price on him here, but I would definitely look at him as a one-off hitter. I mean, it's pretty much a last 7 ceiling of 30. Let me write him down for my one-off. And then bullpen, nice, 30th, 5.6, 1.82 whip, over 2 home runs per 9, giving up a batting average of 311. So, and with the Mets home numbers, yeah, if you want to stack the Mets, I'd put Gomez in there and build around him. Let me write that down. Gomez and Mets plus New York Mets. Okay. Flipping down here, Vargas. I don't really care about that either way. Boston, Houston. So now we're probably getting the main slate. Springer went out, so he's probably not going to play. God, he's 5,700. That's insane. Anyways, you can look at this, see your own numbers. You got the 4th and the 1st ranked bullpens behind. Boston, I mean, they've got monster numbers, but Peacock, this is great here. So 48 at-bats, they're only hitting 188 against him. So if you want to use him as a pitcher, I'm fine with that. Boston's a good team. Houston's also a good team. Price, what's his BVP? Oh, wow. This is the most at-bats I think I've seen on the sheet since I updated this 3 days ago. 128 at-bats, and they're only hitting 234 against him with 38 strikeouts. I mean, those are monster numbers. So we got Springer 7 for 33 with 16 Ks. but he's probably not going to play. He left the game last night. I don't know if it's still his back or quad. Bregman's only 3 for 13. Brantley's 6 for 27. Correa is 3 for 17. Gurriel is 8 for 18. And then Tyler White's 0 for 7. And Chirinos is 3 for 13. Wow. I think this is the main slate because I haven't seen Price. But yeah, if you wanted to use him tonight, I guess you could use Price or Peacock. That's a crazy game with good bullpens behind them. And then I think these are all going to be in the main slate game. So I'm going to just stop this at the early slate so I can get this posted. So let me know if you guys prefer the article or prefer the video. But I wanted to kind of run through and just show you when I look at the sheet what I'm looking at. You know, last 14, last 7, BVP, history, pitchers. But I tried to get everything on this sheet. So I'll get this posted and see what you guys think. Thanks. Good luck. Don't forget, play Carlos Gomez, Hiura, however you say his name, the second baseman for Milwaukee, and Mikado as my one-off guys. My GPP stacks for the early slate are Toronto, Arizona, and the Mets. And then my favorite stacks that I'm going to have the most of are going to be the Yankees. That game should play. I live in Kansas City, and rain's not supposed to come in until later. And then Minnesota, I love today. So we go from there.